Welcome to our podcast. Today, we're chatting about how sensitive you can be to rejection and how that sensitivity can sometimes spiral into what some call rejection sensitive dysphoria, or RSD.
I'm excited to dive in. So we're talking about the spectrum of rejection responses, right? There's a big difference between what's considered normal rejection sensitivity and RSD.
Absolutely. It's like, think of rejection as a range. For most people, a disappointing or hurtful comment fades over time. But for others, that same experience can lead to intense emotional reactions that linger for days. It can really disrupt their daily lives.
And it's not just a fleeting hurt, right? It goes deeper, sometimes turning into a full-blown cycle of negative feelings and even impacting relationships.
Exactly. One vivid example they use is a scenario between a couple. We can call them Jamie and Taylor. Picture this. After a long, exhausting day, Taylor suggests, in a caring way, that they reconnect and talk about their feelings. But Jamie, who experiences RSD, suddenly feels a rush of panic. Instead of seeing it as a chance to bond, they spiral into thoughts like, "I'm such a terrible partner," or "I'm unlovable." It really paints a picture of how disproportionate this sensitivity can be.
And it's interesting because someone without RSD might feel sad, but then eventually process it and move forward, while someone with RSD gets stuck in that whirlwind of negative self-talk.
Yes, and it's not even in the DSM-5 as an official diagnosis. RSD is more of a descriptive term, often associated with conditions like ADHD or autism spectrum disorder. The research shows that these groups might experience more criticism throughout life, which could make them more prone to heightened rejection sensitivity.
Now here's something to consider. While ADHD and ASD can show these traits, it's not like every person with those conditions experiences RSD, right? So there's a nuance here.
Exactly, that's a fair point. Not every person with ADHD or autism is doomed to suffer from RSD. It essentially comes down to individual differences in emotional regulation. It's like, how some people bounce back from a minor setback, while others, well, they get overwhelmed for days.
And speaking of being overwhelmed, the content we're discussing also touches on how the intense emotional pain in RSD can result in mood shifts so dramatic, they interfere with daily activities like work, social interactions, and even self-esteem, a sort of constant anticipation of rejection.
Right. It's almost as if individuals with RSD have a radar that's always on high alert for any sign of rejection, even things that might not be intended as such. This perpetual watchfulness can lead them to avoid situations where they might feel at risk of being rejected, which might, ironically, isolate them further.
That's a really tough cycle to break out of. And I guess that's where communication becomes critical in relationships. What kind of strategies did the article suggest for couples dealing with RSD?
Great question. One key strategy mentioned is honest and respectful communication. It's all about using a softened startup. Instead of launching into a confrontation with, "You never support me," you could say something like, "I feel worried," when issues come up late in the day. This can really help reduce the sting of, perceived criticism.
I love that. It's like setting the stage for understanding rather than conflict. But I wonder if always softening your speech might sometimes blur the urgency of problems. What do you think?
That's a valid concern. I mean, there's a delicate balance. While a softened approach can prevent the escalation of feelings in someone with RSD, it's also important that partners feel heard and validated. Sometimes it might even require a balance between being gentle and being direct.
Interesting perspective. It reminds me of the idea of having a timeout system. For instance, if emotions begin to flood, one person might call, "I need a moment to breathe," so both can calm down before discussing further.
Exactly, the article really emphasizes that. Recognizing physiological cues like that surge of adrenaline when overwhelmed is crucial. If you can say, "Hold on, I'm feeling flooded right now," then you have space to de-escalate the situation.
Right. And that leads into another strategy mentioned, using repair phrases. Even a simple statement like, "Can we take a step back?" I really want to understand you better, can break up a cycle before it turns into an all-out argument.
Yes, repair phrases are so key. They act almost like an emotional reset button. It's like, pausing a heated movie scene to breathe and reflect, rather than letting the drama carry on unchecked.
I find it fascinating how closely the ability to manage rejection sensitivity ties into our overall self-perception. The article mentioned that those with RSD often struggle with chronic negative self-views, feeling unworthy or ashamed just at the thought of being rejected.
Absolutely. It's like this umbrella of negativity that shadows every interaction. And what's interesting is that, while almost everyone experiences some degree of self-doubt after rejection, for people with RSD, these feelings get amplified and can spiral into long-lasting distress.
Yes, indeed. And beyond the emotional and relational aspects, there's also the impact on daily functioning, like productivity and focus. When someone is always anxious about being rejected, it's hard to really, put the focus into work or hobbies.
Exactly. It creates this feedback loop. Reduced self-esteem leads to more anxiety about rejection, which in turn impacts everyday functioning, further feeding that negative self-image.
So then what are some of the proactive steps to deal with RSD? Aside from communication strategies, I know professional help is sometimes advised.
Right, one of the suggestions is seeking individual or couples therapy. These environments provide safe spaces to work through these deep-seated issues and develop, healthier patterns of emotional response. Additionally, couples can build what the article calls a positive emotional bank account by regularly expressing gratitude and fondness towards each other.
Yep, I like that concept. A positive emotional bank account. It's almost like small deposits of appreciation that can later, buffer against the withdrawals of negative interactions.
Exactly, and even something as simple as saying, "Thank you for being patient with me," or "I really appreciate your support," can make a huge difference in nurturing a safe space where both can grow.
Sounds like the overall message is about building resilience, not just in the individual dealing with RSD, but in the relationship as a whole.
Absolutely. Resilience is built through understanding, communication, and moments of compassionate de-escalation. The idea is to foster an environment where both partners feel secure, even when one is prone to more intense emotional fluctuations.
Right. And the research pointers are really backed by experts like Dr. William Dodson, who brought attention to this, linking it to ADHD and even some aspects of autism, right?
Yes, exactly. Dodson coined the term to describe that amplified response in individuals who often face extra layers of criticism or rejection throughout their lives. It's interesting how these findings shine a light on, the challenges faced by those communities and provide concrete strategies on how to cope.
So it sounds like whether you have RSD or not, taking steps to communicate effectively and protect your emotional well-being is crucial, especially in relationships.
Definitely. And I think what's really empowering is that by understanding these dynamics, couples can actually turn potential conflict into an opportunity for deeper connection, turning a moment of intense emotion into a moment of shared vulnerability.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I do wonder, sometimes people might feel that using these strategies is, just avoiding the real pain. Do you think there's a risk of not facing issues head-on?
That's a valid critique. I mean, it's a balance, right? Some might argue that frequent timeouts or softened language could smooth over problems instead of addressing the core issues. However, the counterpoint is that when emotions run that high, addressing the core issue without a pause can actually worsen misunderstandings. It's about finding the right balance between immediate reaction and reflective processing.
Yep. Yeah, I can see it like, mixing the raw honesty of emotions with a bit of thoughtful moderation.
Exactly. It's like a well-tuned orchestra where every piece has its role. In this case, the instruments are open communication, respect, and empathy. And when they play in harmony, even the most intense rejection sensitivity can be managed constructively.
It's fascinating how these techniques also tie back to broader research and even product offerings from the Gottman Institute. They've taken these insights and built tools like the Gottman Relationship Advisor and Relationship Coach.
Yes, they have. Those tools are designed to measure relationship health and, assist couples in navigating the challenges of everyday relationship dynamics, including issues stemming from sensitive emotional responses. It's like having a roadmap for building a resilient partnership.
Right. And there are even virtual events like the Art and Science of Love that bring couples together to learn and interact using these principles in real time.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach. Research-backed, practical strategies, and even digital tools to support couples. It underscores the idea that understanding and managing rejection, whether normal or more severe as RSD, is key to sustaining a healthy relationship.
Absolutely. To wrap it up, it's really about recognizing that while rejection is a universal experience, its impact varies. For some, it's a minor inconvenience, but for others, it can be a profound, life-altering challenge requiring extra care and communication.
Yes, and by being aware of these differences and employing strategies like honest communication, timeouts, and empathy, partners can actually transform potential breakdowns into breakthroughs. It's a powerful reminder of the depths of our emotional experiences and the importance of support in our relationships.
Yep. And if someone feels overwhelmed by these feelings, seeking professional guidance isn't a sign of weakness, but a step towards fostering a healthier connection with oneself and one's partner.
Right on. Understanding your emotional wiring and that of the people you care about can be transformative. So whether you're navigating the everyday bumps of rejection or facing the intense waves of RSD, there's hope. And there are strategies to build a more resilient and loving connection.
Well, this has definitely been an enlightening discussion. It makes me think about how the little shifts in our language and approach can have a huge impact over time.
Absolutely. And it underscores that at the heart of every strong relationship is a commitment to understanding and growing together, even when things get challenging.
Right. Thank you for this deep dive. It's given me some great takeaways about handling sensitivity and how to support loved ones who might be struggling.
My pleasure. It's always great to explore these concepts and remind ourselves that while rejection can cut deep, with the right tools, our bonds can actually become stronger.
Absolutely. Right, that's a wrap for today's conversation. Until next time, keep building those bridges of understanding and stay resilient.